Now, I will say, this match itself, not particularly great. I love watching Swerve Strickland, and I think Swerve did the best he can. Moxley no-sells everything. Moxley is not somebody I enjoy watching wrestle in 2025. There was a brief time early in Moxley's run in AEW where I did enjoy Jon Moxley on TV. I do not anymore. I would like the guy to take a vacation. If he wants to take a vacation for the rest of 2025, it'd be great. Drop the title first, but 2025, just take the rest of the time off. Like, I don't need to see Jon Moxley anymore. I don't feel like the Death Riders make any sense. When there was a time that it felt like they were invading the show and there were AEW wrestlers waiting outside the arena to stop the pickup truck, to stop the invasion, that was one thing. They have a Tron. They have theme music. What are we doing here? They have an entrance. They're just like any other wrestler on the roster. There seems to be no threat to Tony Khan. There's been nothing on TV that would indicate that Moxley is threatening to take the title home and just sit off TV, and that Tony Khan is going along with this because he ultimately wants to see somebody dethrone Moxley. We haven't gotten any of that. There has been no story. There's been nothing to hold this thing together. And yet, as much as I hated this match, and as much as I hated the fact that Swerve and Moxley are on the floor for what felt like 5 straight minutes, leading to a spot off the top of the ladder, the Swerve stomp off the ladder through the table to Moxley, while I would love to sit back and say, great moment, love it, it led to something, it didn't. Because after that spot, which in theory should have probably been the majority of the 5 minutes of them on the floor, is them recovering, mostly Moxley's like up as if nothing happened within like 30, 45 seconds. So we spent all this time getting to that spot. Moxley gets driven through the table by the Swerve stomp off the top of a ladder, and he's up and just like A-okay, totally fine. Nonsense. Absolute crap. You get ref bumps, you get a whole bunch of other schmaziness, and then what happens? Hangman comes out. Who's he gonna turn on? Is he gonna hit Swerve? We saw the thing on Dynamite where, he says, you burned my house down. He said, you deserved it. Hangman says, you deserved it. And Swerve says, I know. And it seemed like they maybe had made up. And so you have Hangman looking at Swerve, but then he looks at Moxley and he doesn't get to do anything because, the Death Riders are here. But then the Ops come out and they kind of neutralize the Death Riders. And at some point, Hangman gets in the ring and, he delivers the dead eye to Moxley. And you go, he's made his choice. He's backing Swerve. He's helping Swerve. And then he ends up out of the ring. And it looks like finally Swerve is set up to do the Swerve stomp. And he does. And you're feeling like, here it is. If Paul Turner can get back in the ring, the match is over. Lights go out. And I legitimately had thought about tweeting earlier in the night. The Young Bucks just being off TV is the weirdest thing. And you think about all the good things that are being done on the other channel, we'll call it, from the other company with CM Punk and Record Business and all that. And you have nothing to show for it with the Bucks off TV for months, with Jack Perry gone for however long it's been. There's like no mention of it. Okada's still kind of around, but nobody's asking about where the Bucks or Jack Perry are, but he's still there. And the Bucks hate Kenny Omega, but they didn't actually do anything to interfere in Kenny's match, and there's really no mention of that. So a whole bunch of stuff that's unfulfilled. But the lights go out, and when they finally come back on, the Young Bucks are hanging on to Swerve Strickland's hands. It's in the thumbnail of the episode, in case those of you have seen it, and those of you who haven't, like here it is. The Young Bucks have Swerve's hands, and they deliver an EVP trigger. And then Moxley wins. And you go, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And while I was very frustrated, and in fairness, I think I had every right to be frustrated, and I think a lot of people had the right to be frustrated with what happened, I actually had a little bit of I took a breath, and it felt like a little bit of relief, because for months, the Death Rider storyline has stagnated. And there have been a whole lot of loose ends just kind of left unresolved. I feel like we finally got to a point that should have happened probably 2 months ago, but we're finally going to get addressed on TV the moment that we saw the Young Bucks lose the titles, and they're seen backstage. Jack Perry walks in and sees that the Young Bucks are shredding documents with Brandon Cutler. And you go, what is that? What's going on? You think back to Moxley saying to Jack Perry at some point, a lot of people don't like you. I think you're a good kid. We have that. We had what looked like some friction between the Young Bucks and Jack Perry, however long ago in Japan, where they were happy to see Jack. Jack's not exactly happy to see them. And it felt like for the first time, we're getting a little bit of cohesion, just a little bit. It feels like a payoff could be coming. And it feels like what we're going to get is what some of us thought all along, which is that the Young Bucks, unable to take over the company themselves, enlisted Jon Moxley, or maybe somewhere along the line, they chatted with Moxley and the Death Riders and said, you know what, we support what you guys are doing. We'd rather see you tear down AEW and build it anew. We couldn't get it done. Maybe you guys can. And now we're going to see, presumably, the Elite and the Death Riders come together. Now, what does that mean long-term? I have no idea. Does it mean that we're going to see Swerve and Hangman team up to take on the Young Bucks, maybe at All In? Possibly. Does it mean that there's going to be an Anarchy in the Arena match, which I saw people talking about, or Blood and Guts? Are we going to see some combination of the Young Bucks and the Death Riders against like Swerve and Hangman, maybe Kenny Omega, a few others? I have no idea. Do I really care about all of that down the line? No. I feel a little bit better knowing that this very stagnant, underwhelming, stupid-ass storyline finally has at least a modicum of hope. It has at least a tiny bit of hope. It feels like there might be a little bit more of a grand picture at play. And to this point, it has not been apparent. It has not been evident. And while I don't exactly enjoy the Young Bucks' work and haven't for a few years now, I would like to imagine that at least one of them on the mic is going to be able, in a very smarmy way, is going to be able to make some sense of what we've seen from the Death Riders and is maybe going to be able to make sense of why the Young Bucks have decided to align themselves with Moxley, why they have turned their back on this company. Remember, they delivered the EVP driver, right, or the formerly Meltzer driver to Tony Khan in the ring in Jacksonville. And that was supposed to lead to something. It really led to nowhere. And it led to some weird moments with Christopher Daniels backstage, but it never really led to anything. And it led to them taking Kenny Omega out of action. It didn't really lead to anything. I would like to imagine that if you put all these minds together, you should be able to get some kind of a cohesive storyline. I am not holding my breath. I am not going to somehow lie to myself and make myself believe that this is going to be the greatest storyline in AEW history. I will say that if this whole thing is building towards All In and that we have to wait until All In for Darby Allin to return, that would be bad, very bad. Darby's about to, I think in the next week or so, go on the Mount Everest hike, which could take a month, could take 2 months, could take longer. It better not be building towards that. Is it going to build towards Will Ospreay wins the Owen, gets the title shot at All In, and now he's going to be the one to dethrone Moxley? Maybe. I'd rather it be a day one AEW guy. I can make a very compelling case that Hangman Adam Page makes a lot more sense as a day one guy. He also gets to stick it to the Young Bucks. There are so many ways that you can go, but the one place this needs to go, the Death Rider storyline needs to go, is in the trash. It has taken far too long to deliver far too little. And even though it seems like we're getting some converging storylines, finally, we are 3 months at least late. There was a way to keep the momentum going around that storyline. It has flatlined.